A report in Washington Post has claimed that the American President Donald Trump took a secret military flight from Turkiye last month, and this apparently was prompted by an Iranian threat. So let's take a look at some of these images from that day. Now, Donald Trump had flown to Ankara on board the new Air Force One aircraft that, remember, was gifted by Qatar for the NATO summit. This is the plane that he in fact came in when he landed in Ankara. This is what was known as the Palace in the Sky, a gift from Qatar. The trip, of course, marked the aircraft's very first international journey by the American president in it. However, its rapid upgrades have raised a number of questions about cost and also security. So as the summit took place amidst the escalating hostilities with Iran, which borders Turkey. Now, in a surprise move, Donald Trump and other officials then announced that he will fly to Britain on board not the Palace in the Sky that was gifted by Qatar, but in an older Air Force One plane. In a Truth Social post, Donald Trump said that the new Qatari-given aircraft would fly ahead to Mildenhall Air Force Base, giving the American troops a chance to tour the aircraft. Now, Trump said that for old time's sake, he would instead take the former Air Forces One from Turkiye to Mildenhall, a short trip to give America's great military heroes a chance to appreciate the beautiful new addition to the Air Force One fleet. Now, the Washington Post, however, has claimed that all that appears is not the truth. This is what Washington Post claims, that Trump announced that he would fly in the older Air Force One plane. Instead, believe it or not, he flew in a much smaller, a C-32A military jet that apparently was parked near the plane. Now, in these images, you can, of course, see Donald Trump boarding the blue and white Air Force One in Ankara, waving from the door as the cameras recorded his departure. Now, in the second frame, you can also see a catering truck that is parked near the Air Force One plane. The truck pulls away minutes later as media personnel boarded the aircraft. The video appears to show the truck moving behind the plane towards a staircase that then leads to another plane. This is the C-32A military jet. And this is where it gets really interesting. Donald Trump made a pretense that he was flying the plane that you see there, but actually, it's a different plane that he apparently boards and then flies out from Ankara. Now, according to the New York Times, two senior American officials said that Trump was transported, believe it or not, hidden in a catering container to the military jet, following a threat apparently from Iran against the American president's Air Force One plane. Now, according to the New York Times, the older Air Force One landed at Mildenhall Air Base in England at about 10:16 p.m. Trump stepped off the plane about 40 minutes later, but to unknown reporters, he had first been secretly driven from the third aircraft to the older one, that is the Air Force One. He then boarded through a different entrance before emerging from the plane as if he had arrived on board it. Now, Donald Trump then walked across the tarmac to the Qatari-donated aircraft as a small group of reporters who had traveled on the older plane watched. Now, the president and the press pool then boarded the new aircraft for the flight back home to Washington. So this was not just a simple trip for Donald Trump. There is a lot of stuff that had apparently happened behind the scenes in the number of planes that Donald Trump had actually boarded to try and get back home from Ankara.